Part 2 of solving quadratics by factoring. Here we've got a couple of questions that look like they're difficult. And some students, they'll try to multiply and put it into like a standard quadratic form, but that would be counterproductive because we want to get it into factored form and use the zero product rule, and we're already ready to do that. So this acts like the first factor, a, and we set 3x minus 2 equal to 0. We'll also set x plus 4 equal to 0, solve each separately, and we'll have our two answers. So we're going to add 2 to both sides. We got 3x equals 2, divide by 3, x equals 2/3. And over here, we're just going to subtract 4 from both sides, and we get x equals negative. So x equals 2/3 is one answer, and x equals negative 4 is another. In this one, and don't worry about the fact that there's a 0 here and there's an f of x here. Just replace the f of x with a 0. And I've got my three factors. 3x is one of the factors. X plus 1 is another. And x minus 2 is another. So we're going to have three answers here. This is going to give me 0. This is going to give me negative 1. And this is going to give me 2. Here we've got a couple of examples that is not in factored form and not in standard form, so we're going to put it in standard form. We're going to get the y's to the side with the y squared. Now I like to have my a value, and that's the leading coefficient of the second degree term. I like to have it be positive, so I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep the y squared on this side and bring everything else over to it. So I'm just going to do this in one step. We're going to subtract 28 from both sides. So it's going to cancel out on the left, gone, gone, and I'm going to be left with a 0. And over here, y squared plus 3y minus 28. First term here, second or last term here. AC is 1 times negative 28. Negative 28 goes there. B is 3, it goes there. Product, negative 28, sum, 3. How about 7 and 4? When I multiply 7 and 4, I get a negative 28. That means one of them's negative. It's going to be this one, the negative 4, because 7 plus a negative 4 is positive 3. So over here, each of these boxes is going to get a y. And we're going to put a negative 4 in one of the boxes and a 7 in the other. Greatest common factor, y. Greatest common factor, negative 4. Greatest common factor, y. Greatest common factor, 7. So my factors are y plus 7 and y minus 4. Set each one of those factors equal to 0 and solve. This is going to get me a negative 7. This is going to give me a 4. This is the second time in a row I've used a shortcut that I haven't talked about. Some students do the shortcut so often they forget that they're actually setting it equal to 0, and sometimes make mistakes because of it. But set y plus 7 equal to 0 and subtract 7 from both sides, you're just going to see you're going to get the opposite of this thing. When is it not like that? Take a look at this one. When it's 3x minus 2, it isn't just positive 2 that's the answer. It's take the opposite of this, divide by this. But whenever it gets complicated, I'll be certain to do it all from scratch and set it equal to 0. So 8 is an awful lot like 7. This time the a, the positive, the coefficient of the second degree term is positive on this side, so I'm going to bring this over here. So it's going to be 15x squared, add 7x. Why add? Well, how do I get rid of a negative 7x? I add it. And then minus 2. 15x squared here, negative 2 here. AC, 15 times negative 2 is negative 30, and B goes here. Alright, 10 and 3 pop out. Multiply 10 and 3, we get 30. But one of them has to be negative. If I add them, I get 7, so 10 plus a negative 3. So a 10x here, a negative 3x here, and greatest common factors all around. 5x, negative 1. Remember the negative part because it's negative on this edge. And here, let's see, 3x, and here a 2. So my factors are 5x minus 1 and 3x plus 2. Okay, so here's where it's a little bit more complicated. I would add 1, divide by 5. So I'm going to show the whole thing. 5x minus 1 equals 0. Add 1 to both sides. 5x equals 1. Divide by 5. And the last one, set 3x plus 2 equal to 0. Subtract 2 from both sides. And divide by 3. Two answers, positive 1/5, negative 2/3. A couple more examples. Okay. These look an awful lot alike. They both have f of x's. Well, we don't care about that. We just replace that with a 0. They both have a leading coefficient that's negative. Now you can go ahead and keep it as a negative, or we could just multiply everything by a negative 1 and change all the signs. Right now I'm not doing that. I'm just writing it down as is. So the only thing I've done in this step is replace that f of x with a 0. So now multiply everything by a negative 1, and I still get 0 here, and the signs just switch. X squared minus 4x minus 32. First term, x squared. Last term, negative 32. AC, negative 32 times 1 is negative 32. B is negative 4. Alright, for the first time in a while, I think, I've got a b that's negative. So the absolute value, the number with the highest absolute value is going to be negative this time. Let's see, 8 and 4. Negative 8, positive 4. Multiply those two together, you get negative 32. Add them together, you get negative 4. So a negative 8x, a positive 4x, and greatest common factors of x, 4, x, and negative 8. So x plus 4, x minus 8, they're both equal to 0. This is going to give me an answer of negative 4. This is going to give me an answer of 8. Last one. Multiply everything by a negative. You know, I could do this another way. I could add everything. It accomplishes the same thing. It just gets it to the other side, and we don't really care which side it's on. So if we add an x squared, it comes over here. It's positive. We subtract a 2x, it comes over here. We subtract an 8, it's over here. It cancels out on that side. So it doesn't matter which way you think of it. Multiply by a negative 1 or add. Alright. AC is negative 8. B is negative 2. 4 times 2. Multiply to be negative. When I add, I get a negative. So negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. X squared here. Negative 8 here. 2x and negative 4x. Greatest common factors of x, negative 4, x, and 2. This gives me an answer of 4, and this one, negative 2.